It all comes back to money.
This is the Keeping Your Money Show with Jamie Westenbarger and Bart Steindler.
All right, welcome back to Keeping Your Money Show. Jamie Westenbarger, joined as always by Bart Steindler. We were talking about Social Security myths. And I think the biggest thing to highlight with that before we move on to this fiduciary situation is you have to take the choices of Social Security important. And we're going to talk about Medicare here coming up in a little bit. Again, same thing. You have to take it. No one is going to send you the magical notice in the mail that alerts you to this is your time. You know what I mean? Like, you have to like kind of aggressively yourself proactively figure out how to do this. And the best way to do that is, quite frankly, with an independent financial advisor who can run the software and the calculations to help you decide what your best choices are, because everyone's different. The one thing in that article that I hated was it talked about taking it early, and the person they interviewed said you should always delay taking it. Well, that's not true.
No,
it's not true.
No,
there are people who should take it early.
Sometimes you have no choice. I mean, you need that money to pay your bills, and there's no other source of funds that are going to give you enough money to live on.
Right.
So in that case,
I have a client. He's 62.
Mm-hmm.
He has a debilitating disease which will eventually end his life prematurely.
Yeah.
There is absolutely zero reason. He's not married. There's absolutely zero reason for him to wait to take Social Security. The day he was eligible for it, he filed for it because there's no reason to wait.
Right.
So it's not always so cut and dry. But all right, so this came out, that was about a week ago now. Bank of America, which owns Merrill Lynch, and I want to stress that this isn't about Merrill Lynch. This is more about something that's happening in the financial industry that maybe a lot of people don't quite understand.
Right. We're not being negative on any particular company at all.
Not at all. If we go back and we look at the fiduciary policy that was starting to wind through the financial services industry the last couple of years, that eventually in May was just completely thrown out by the Court of Appeals. Okay. And the reason it was thrown out is because the Department of Labor tried to put in a policy that the courts ruled they had no business being in charge of.
It was a case of overreach, really.
Right. So what it came down to is it started to really require certain things within retirement accounts. And in response to that, and out of fear of potential litigation and regulation, many companies like Merrill Lynch stopped allowing certain types of transactions and certain types of accounts within retirement accounts. And they forced their brokers and their clients to move to what they considered a fiduciary feasible kind of model. Okay. Now they're saying, since it's dead, we're not doing that anymore. You can go back to the other types of accounts. Now, we could probably talk an entire show about what is better for you, a commissionable brokerage account or an advisory feed advisor account, but that's not the purpose of why I wanted to bring this up. I wanted to bring this up because I think it highlights something that happens in our industry a lot that the average consumer doesn't necessarily get a sneak peek to. They don't see this happening because it happens behind the scenes. And that is companies dictating the types of accounts, even the types of products that can be offered to the clients of the firm. So John Smith, your advisor, and you think of him as the person who is coming to you with ideas and opportunities and research on what you're going to invest in. But in reality, John Smith is only coming to you with what the company he works for is allowing him to come to you with. And this is a perfect example of how behind the scenes, sometimes that stuff can be being modified and changed, and you as the client don't even really realize it.
So we got to this point because the fiduciary rule that the Department of Labor was promoting differentiated between products where a fee was charged based on the amount of the assets and products that a commission was charged on. And certain products are designed with a fee and certain products are designed with a commission. And it doesn't necessarily mean that one is bad or one is better than the other. It's just there are two different ways that an advisor is compensated. And the ruling that the Department of Labor was coming out with gave the impression that if it was a commission product as opposed to a fee product, it was not in the client's best interest. And in some cases that was true, but it certainly was not true in all cases. So the industry reacted to that, seeing that the administration that was in charge at that time was supporting the Department of Labor, and it looked like all this was going to be enacted. So the companies that we are affiliated with or work for in some cases started saying, we got to get in front of this, so we're just not going to allow this group of products to be something that our brokers can use. So then the broker sits down with his client and says, you know what, I think it's time that you look at an advisory type situation where you pay a fee, and we're going to, we're going to collapse this whole account that you have where we've, bought and sold and done this on a commission basis. We're going to collapse this whole thing down and put it into a fee-based portfolio. Well, the reason they were doing that was because the Department of Labor and the past administration were very strong in promoting this. It looked like it was going to be law, so the companies reacted to it, and then your account was changed because of that.
Right.
Now they're flipping on that because the law did not hold up in the courts. The U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals struck it down, and now this is starting to unwind, and a lot of these companies are saying, okay, we can do brokerage type business again.
And I think that the key to this, number one, is if you did move to an advisory account, whoever, regardless of who your advisor, broker, financial person was, regardless of what company they worked for, if you're now approached to move back to the account you used to be in, I would probably be asking some pointed questions on that.
Right.
If this was definitely good for me a year ago, why is it not good for me anymore? And, those type of things. But then the other thing is, it highlights other decisions that don't make it, under Reuters, right? That also do affect things. We had some people in the other night we were talking to, Bart. This is a perfect example. They were with a company, and he said, and this was his words, I noticed that with that company, all of the investments they talked to us about happen to be that company's investment, right?
Yep.
It's not necessarily because there aren't other investments available, but it's probably because that company has modified their compensation schedule to be more beneficial to the advisor if they stay within the farm, so to speak, right?
Right.
There are also situations where a particular product may be penalized to the advisor on what they'll be paid, or a particular type of product will be penalized to the advisor for what they'll be paid. And the problem with that is, regardless of who the broker or advisor is, that has to weigh in on their overall situation. So what you really want to know when you're sitting down with someone who's going to help you make one of the most important decisions of your life, in how am I going to structure my retirement? What does my income strategy look like when I retire? I want to know that I'm getting the most unbiased information possible. And the only way that's possible is if the product is indifferent to the recommendation, or the advisor is indifferent to the product when making the recommendation. And the only way they can truly be indifferent, the only way they can be completely agnostic to how that actually works, is if they're independent. And if you're not working with someone independent, if you're not working with someone that has the entire investment stratosphere out there available to them, then it's going to be really difficult for you to get the best advice. It just is.
It's really strange how this industry works, and if you're on the other side of it, it's difficult to understand. But the advisor for one company could be compensated differently for a product, and if he was at another company and using the same product, he could have better compensation. So
or worse.
Or worse. So the compensation isn't really always determined by the product, but it's determined by the company that person's working for.
Yep.
However, if you are independent, there is nobody else above you making those decisions.
Right.
There is nobody saying, you're going to get compensated this much for that and this much for that, and we want you to move this product instead of that product. So you get more of a consultative relationship instead of, being sold what that company has the best benefit to sell.
Yep. So if you need an opinion, a second opinion, maybe you need a first opinion, we're happy to sit down with you and give you an independent view of what you should be doing as you near retirement, or maybe you're already in retirement. Give us a call. 888-98-MONEY is the number. 888-986-6639. All right, coming up, majority of pre-retirees failed this Medicare quiz. What do you need to know when it comes to filing for Medicare? Right here on the Keeping Your Money Show.
Is your 401k sturdy enough to help support your retirement goals? The Keeping Your Money Show has a team of advisors that will help you size up the assets currently in your 401k and explore asset allocation based on your goals. Call the Keeping Your Money Show today at 1-888-98-MONEY or visit keepingyourmoney.com to learn how you can start solidifying your foundation for a strong retirement plan.